Recording in progress.
Good morning, honorable members. I would like us to start the meeting. Could we show face just to make sure we've got everyone around? Thank you very much, Honorable Mtetwa, Honorable Van Veek. Morning, good morning. Mr. Sebake, good morning. Let me see if we can see more of the members as well. Honorable Van Sale, we can only see a photo. Honorable Mkalipi, welcome, morning. Honorable Van Sale, yeah, wonderful, good morning.
Morning.
Morning. Mr. Edward, good morning.
Morning, Chair.
You're muted. Honorable Khadi, Mr. Khadi, I can see you. Thank you. Welcome. Okay. Honorable members, I think we should start. The other members will indicate as they come along, but I can see you. We have enough to start the meeting. So I'd like us to observe a moment for silent prayer and meditation. Thank you very much. Welcome, honorable members. Let me say, I'm sorry, yesterday I had to drop off because of my arrangements that got out of hand. But thanks to members for taking the meeting through, and thanks to Honorable Direko for holding on. At this point, we had a discussion yesterday about whether we should proceed with the meeting because of the changes in Parliament occasioned by the withdrawal of the appropriations bill and the introduction of amendments. We have had two consultative discussions with the House Chairperson before our meeting yesterday and after that meeting, after we had received the letter. The letter that the House Chairperson has circulated, it's a guide to advise the committees on what is expected as we move forward. The long and short of it is that the appropriations bill, its amendment will bring about certain changes in the budget, particularly in certain departmental details, which is obviously going to mean that the entire process of the submission in Parliament is affected. The Whippery and the House committees are sitting together to look at the redraft of the new parliamentary program. And so the chairperson, House Chairperson, advised that all the committee meetings should be suspended pending the approval of a new program of Parliament. This was to obviate any possible wasteful expenditures. And in this case, we indicated last night in the communication that In fact, there has been a number of committees which were meeting in person. There were departments that were moving from the various offices towards Cape Town, and that is really where the cost or the wasteful expenditure was anticipated. In fact, years of yesterday and today, there were already departments and members of committees who had flown already to Cape Town, for whom there had to be specific permission granted that they should continue with their business, because then it would have not it would have been a wasteful expenditure. In our case, because we are meeting in a virtual platform, we have considered that the expenditure will be minimal, and yet there is still room for us to proceed with the processing of some of the work, seeing that this was just the last aspect of the departmental process that we had gone through. And on that basis, we don't consider that there will be any wasteful expenditure incurred. Instead, we believe this will help us to get more time. When there are new variations introduced onto the amendment bill, we will then be briefed by the minister. And so the House Chairperson has concurred with our approach and indicated that this guide was mainly to make sure that those who had huge costs associated with the meetings, the hearings, the visits, the traveling, the accommodation, the catering, should not continue to do so, because in some instances that will that will create a double cost. So on that basis, we have therefore proceeded with this meeting, honorable members, and so I just thought I need to give you that background so that you should feel that this meeting is actually perfectly constituted. There is no challenge insofar as the insofar as the whole process of processing of our work, and so we should continue. Having said so, honorable members, I would like to welcome the chairperson and the delegation from the Municipal Demarcation Board, Mr. Manyoni and his team. They will be introduced in due course. I would also like to welcome the team from the CRL Commission, which is led by Madam Mkwana Zikaluva, the chairperson, who will also in due course introduce her team. So we will then have this discussion. I'm hoping that we should really expedite the matters here. Most of them are fairly straightforward, and I suppose that the members have also had the opportunity to peruse the presentations, which we were grateful that they were submitted ahead of time. Thank you very much for that. And so I would like Sherin to table the agenda so that we can look at the agenda. Do we have the support of the committee to proceed with the agenda? Any mover for adoption? There's the agenda. The committee needs to endorse the agenda before we can proceed. Mover for adoption?
Damase moves.
Damase move. Welcome, Mr. Honorable Damase. Any seconder? Honorable members?
My chair, I second.
Thank you very much, Honorable Van Wyk. So we proceed with the with the agenda. May I then invite the chairperson of the Municipal Demarcation Board, Mr. Manyoni, to table the report. Would be pleased if you could just show your face, and as you introduce the members, let them show their faces, even if they have to close down their screen afterwards. But let's see who is here and who's presenting. Honorable Manyoni, you're on the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm not sure whether I will be. Oh, there I am.
You are
Just
visible. Yes, proceed. You are visible.
All right, then I can switch off the video for connectivity purposes, Chairperson. Chairperson, I'm also accompanied by the CEO of the Municipal Demarcation Board, the CFO, and some senior managers.
Let's ask them to show their faces if they can.
Show your faces, CEO, CFO.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm trying to do mine. I'll show it now, mirror my video. Am I appearing, Chair? All right, in the meantime, let the others do, Chair. Whilst I figure myself out, is the CEO, Manye Moroka. I'm just figuring out this video thing. Thanks, Chair.
Members, show your faces, please, so that we are sure we are not talking to robots.
So far, those who are appearing look very much alive, so I'm sure they're not robots. Let's look at the others. Thank you, thank you. All right, let's proceed. Mr. Manyoni, please proceed.
Thank you, Chairperson, members of the Portfolio Committee. Chairperson, as a matter of introduction, I would like to just highlight a few points which I think members would be more interested in. First, Chairperson, is the point that the visibility and the outreach of the Municipal Demarcation Board always has been a concern for the committee, that most people don't know the MDB and they don't feel it on the ground. I must indicate, up to date, Chairperson, we have conducted an awareness program in all municipalities in the country, just to make sure that at least people understand that we will be starting with the processes of water delimitation. I must indicate, for the past 6 years, we have been improving on our stakeholder engagement, as it will be ascertained through our budgetary process, as you would see. And the other point, Chairperson, which has been a concern, is the issue of what we call regionalization, to have sort of provincial offices in the provinces so that our presence could be felt. I must also indicate in that regard, Chairperson, we have been constantly engaging with National Treasury and also the Department of Cooperative. There seem to be some movement coming in. The details will be forthcoming through the CEO. I must indicate, Chairperson, when it comes to the issues that we are going to discuss today, you do realize that there are two targets that have not been reached, simply because those targets are work in progress. It will be explained as we do the presentation. But nonetheless, Chairperson, our main concern has been the financial constraints of the institution. You would realize, Chairperson, that we could not expand as much as we would wish to, given those limitations. But nonetheless, working within those parameters of what we are given, we try by all means to make sure that we even get some little savings, just to make sure that we also are within the budget. With that, Chairperson, if you allow, I will hand over to the CEO or the assigned senior managers to give the necessary presentation. Thanks very much, my Chairperson and members of the committee.
Thank you, Chairperson. My humble apology. I tried figuring out my video, and my apologies to the chair and members of the committee. It won't just show, even though I'm wearing a tie where I am. Chairperson, and honorable members, thank you, my Chairperson, and thank you, Deputy Chair and my colleagues. That's the first page of the presentation. I'm going to run it as quickly as possible so that we can then be allowed to participate in the questioning session. It obviously covers the 11 items: the purpose, institutional arrangements, the constitutional and legislative mandate, the progress on achievements, strategic plan, annual performance plan, MTDP, impact of limited financial resources, which the chair just referred to now, what delimitation process, municipal boundary redetermination process, and obviously the chair will come back with the concluding remarks. We are presenting to the portfolio committee the 2024-25 quarter 2 and quarter 3 financial years. Obviously, the later part of quarter 4 will be referred to slightly. The strategic plan for fiscal years 2025 to 2030 linked to the MTDP, the APP for the current financial year, the budget allocation of the institution, which continues to remain limited, and then the impact of the limited financial resources, which the chairperson just referred to. The board, obviously, it's there, Chair, and we did introduce it previously. It's got the 4 committees, the TGC, Transformation and Governance, the Audit, Risk and ICT, the Word Delimitation and Boundary Determination Committee, which will now be working a lot to the period ending October, the Research and Knowledge Management. The administration is obviously led by the CEO, who's also the accounting officer. It's got the 4 programs: administration, spatial transformation, research, spatial information, intelligence development, and we have the civic engagements, communication, and stakeholder relationships. The board is led by Ntate Thabo Manyoni, who's shown his face, also the deputy chair, Ntate Mohale, Ntate Sibongiseni Maseko from KZN, UDH Pillay, also from KZN, Me Edith Tukahomu, located in the Northwest, Tate Pascal, who does the white paper on local government as well, and the turnaround on local government. Memashia Timabuza from the province of the Mpumalanga, Professor Susan Bulon, Mentombikaya Bart, and Megapsile Gumbi Masilela. Chair. The only person who's a full-time member, it's the chairperson. Those are the photos, chairperson, of our beautiful board. The board's constitutional mandate is in terms of section 1553B, 1574, and it is a constitutional institution and not an ordinary public entity as administered through the DPSA, and it operates within the Republic of South Africa in terms of the constitution. Those are the mandates: the determination of outer boundaries and exercise, which we did, the delimitation of municipal boundaries, municipal ward boundaries, which is currently, and this one is now full on in terms of consultation with effect from 1 April, the assessment of municipal capacity, and the fact that the chair in his concluding remark will also indicate on plans to enhance that one, or what we call aftercare program, which is still not funded, and then the rendering of advisory services to all stakeholders. Now, the progress on achievement, APP 24-25, quarter 1 to quarter 3 were determined in terms of the APP. 2 research reports were duly produced, 3 research reports published, presented, 2 of which were presented at the Sun City SAPAM conference held in September of last year. The awareness and education activities on demarcation process have been conducted at all municipal levels through media platforms, through physical presentations, and this being done even though we do not have satellite or regional offices, but we did our effort there. The following deliverables has not been achieved in quarter 2, which will affect the overall annual performance, is the unqualified audit with no findings. There were about 9 findings, 8 of which have been attended to. The depiction, which is in a graphical illustration, will show that in quarter 2, the target was 7. The achieved was 5, not achieved 1, partially achieved, and that will be explained. And of these, 71% of the quarterly targets have been fully achieved for that reporting quarter 1, and which has not been achieved, and the quarterly target has been partially achieved. And there was that 14.3 variance, which obviously forced the MDB to work on it in the following quarters. On the finance side, for the reporting financial, the total expenditure, the total revenue for that reporting period, the committee will see that it was at 36 million, and it went over to about 39 with a variance of 2.5. And obviously, it's because of the financial constraints and the burden that had sort of overlapped from the Q4 of the previous financial year. And those are the figures which I take members of the committee have looked at. And should there be any questions, the CFO is here. The Q3 performance, 5 out of 5, meaning it was 100%, and there is no question on that one, Chairperson. And it had attended to both Q1 and Q2 variances. By the end of Q3, Chair, the budget was again 44, and we came in at 56. Chair, it is important to indicate that Q4 ends 31 December. But the surplus funding that we had requested from National Treasury was approved, but only transacted to the MDB by end of November. And obviously it impacts negatively in terms of our planning exercise, meaning that surplus alone had to be worked on in the final quarter of the financial year. Next slide, please. Now, the APP Q1 to Q3 performance, those are the graphical illustration for Q1 with the green 2 and the one which is partially, and also for Q1, how it is depicted there. The one target partially achieved in Q2 will be, or it has been attended to in Q4. The one target not achieved in Q2 is also in the annual target. That's the 24-25 annual target was not achieved by the end of the reporting quarter, excluding Q4. Next slide. The strategic plan, which was sort of worked on by the board during the period of August last year, is 2025 to 2030. It covers the vision and the mission. And our vision is partially transformed, equitable, and sustainable communities. And during the word delimitation exercise, this vision will be sort of referred to so that we are not responsible for spatial disintegration or spatial distortion, because in the mission itself, it confirms that we work on spatial conditions for sustainable development, inclusive growth, transformation of local communities through municipal and ward boundary demarcations, and the provision of advisory services. Chairperson, it is here where we are asking the members of society to engage on ensuring that we comply with transforming the communities according to the constitutional tenets. Next slide. In terms of delivering the growth of the National Unity Statement of Intent, it has been depicted in the triangular graphical illustration with priority 1, inclusive growth and job creation. Of course, on job creation, we can only factor our contributory factors, but not necessarily contributing it in terms of absence of budgetary allocation. The second strategic one is to reduce poverty and tackle the high cost of living by ensuring that our proposals, as interacted with stakeholders out there, produces what we call inclusive growth, which is rather confirmed in the strategic priority 3 of a capable, ethical, and developmental state, with the MDB shaping the spaces in terms of the constitutional requirements. Next slide. Chair, those are the impacts statement in terms of shaping inclusive and equitable municipal spaces. We've got about 17 outcomes to improve governance and performance of public entities, organizational excellence, well-defined municipal spaces, up-to-date research, public stakeholder management, and each of those outcomes has got an indicator, each of which are based on a baseline which has been categorized there and taking that the members read. It's obviously a 5-year target, long-term, but reported on monthly internally, quarterly with the board, and quarterly with all stakeholders, including the portfolio committee. On 152 public and stakeholder awareness and education initiatives to be conducted. Thanks, Chair. Next slide. The APP 2025-2026, which started on the 1st of April. Again, those are the 4 programs, Chair, which I've touched on. The number of output indicators, 7 for the very first one, 4 for the second one, Chair, 3 for the third, and 4 for the fourth, with the percentages outlook totaling 100% as depicted. I've indicated that those total 17 in number. The medium term, which is the program 1 for administration, those are the 3 years, the financial reporting years. For the corporate governance, the maturity corporate governance capability, maintaining that also in the following years. The AXA report, as indicated, of the 9 unqualified matters of emphasis on an unqualified audit, we are pushing to go back to obtaining an unqualified audit without findings. And we're hoping to do that on the percentages that are there. The procurement with designated groups, we are still challenged, but we have our targets set there on percentages with youth and the other categories. The training programs on the next slide, it's 12 for the first year, 8 for the second year, and 5 for the third year. And they are the number of internal training interventions targeting youth group, but limited on budget. Next slide. Here we are talking about the program 2, the spatial configuration, the one that is more technical. It's consultation on the first draft words. That process has happened. It's the number of public consultations, 214 are targeted. Number of words published in terms of the circulars, items 5.1 and 5.2 of the MSA, 4,488. And in the spreadsheet on the trend on word delimitation, that number is confirmed there. Just it had increased by 20 from 4,468. And the word delimitation and municipal outer boundaries process runs consecutively. The municipal outer bound redetermination process will commence during Q4 of the 2026-27. Of course, it will be within the 5 years of the current act, but it will be within the 10 years should the IMDA pass through the NCOP processes. Then there are the deferred municipal outer boundary cases, Chair. The legal notices were published in line with the resolutions of the board. We published in the target setting, we published legal notices in line with the resolutions of the board, again in line with the applicable sections. The output on spatial descriptions for the municipal boundaries, the number of municipalities with spatial boundary descriptions, we're hoping to have finalized 70 in the reporting financial year. Next slide. On program 3, it's the research, spatial information and intelligence development, enhanced spatial knowledge hub, number of spatial products available through spatial knowledge hub 2. And then for the outer years, it's as depicted there. I'm going to concentrate more on the reporting financial year. The research reports available, number of research reports to be produced in the reporting financial year will be 2. The dissemination of the research findings, number of research reports, articles presented or published will be 3, all of which are aligned with other stakeholders we work with. Next slide. The final program 4, civic engagement and communication, it's the number of public awareness, the education initiatives, 15 to be worked on. Stakeholder awareness and education initiative, number of stakeholders and awareness education initiatives completed, 15 there. Brand visibility through multimedia platforms and the number of items across multimedia, which is quite costly and generated by the MDB and arising from its work, 12. We could do more, but the committee is fully aware that we're going for the LGE 2026/2027 to be held between 2 November and 31 January. Any Wednesday thereon will be chosen by the IEC, the President, and the Minister of Copta. Next slide, please. The medium-term expenditure framework. Those are the figures, Chair. Chair, you will, and honorable members, you will note that we had 75 million for 2022-23, and we had 76,109 for 24-25. Now, you will see that the variance there is 1 million. However, we need to remind the committee that it did not change. but we were expected to do wonderful work in terms of the outer boundary redetermination. We had expected to do about 7,000 to 8,000 of those in the reporting period. We ended up with 51,000. We had to do more with less. We had hoped that National Treasury, and we used that motivation to National Treasury to go and make a suggestion that they must just make the necessary adjustment for the financial year 25-26. They did not. They gave us just short of 4 million, meaning, again, we're going to do the word delimitation, which is twice as much the exercise of the outer boundaries with a limited budget, and wonderful things will be expected from the MDB. And I wish the board, the committee to note that one. On economic classification, it's how it has been. And then we go to the next slide. That is the related expenditure to the outcome in terms of how it went about. And obviously, we have presented to the PC in the past the first 4 years. And what we are now concentrating on is 25-26, sitting at 79 million. Of course, there's a surplus amount that we will be asking Treasury to make a surplus on a surplus because it came late. The classification of the CAPEX is also being indicated there. You will note, Chair, that there were those deficits in those earlier years, but we are now projecting the zeros for as indicated there. Next slide. The impact on limited resources, the Chair opened remark was focusing on that. Of course, we are constrained, and when we are not constrained and we ask for a surplus, it comes late. We are unable to expand the footprint. Chair, you will recall, if you go back to Hansard of the meetings of the 17th and 18th of October, either way with the Department of COCTA and with us, the PC asked the department through DDG Neville Naidu that the department must go out and look for financing to ensure that the MDB's regionalization concept is realized even within the current setting of the Act. And the DG will report to the PC on that he has asked that we engage on the exercise in Q1, which is April to June, and we will report back to the PC as MDB together with the department in the second quarter of the reporting cycle. However, in 2025, the MDB will finalize the delimitation awards, and the chair will explain that. We've been going around, we've met all parties, all stakeholders. Of course, there are few parties the chairperson did not meet, but the chairperson went further to even meet the provincial executive councils of various provinces. And we continue to do that engagement. We continue to explain how they should articulate at engagements and how to ensure that they also look at the constraints imposed on the board in terms of the MDB and how they could look at the Constitution and the Supreme Law. Number 3 of the anthem is that the significant funding is required to expand and intensify this MDB body chairperson, which has performed wonderfully in the past 3 years and must now be prioritized in lieu of the fact that we're going for the LG 26-27. If additional budget allocation for MDP is not forthcoming, we will continue to do creative work, but under tremendous stress, and that the portfolio committee must note, and we will do our best to report positively. But we are humans, chairperson, and we ask your indulgence and motivation to the powers that be. Next slide. Chair, the demarcation process, we've done the outer boundary. We are on the second circle. The IEC to prepare for and conduct local government, and we will meet that target of the 31 October. However, we have arranged with the IEC to have the second phase submission to before January on the 13 deferred cases, whereafter the word delimitation exercise will be looked at. Next slide. The outer boundary, I'm not going to touch on that. We've presented the process. I'm taking this as read. I'm not going to delay you more on that one. Next slide, please. This is the one that is more important. The voters' roll was released to us. The minister released on 2 October. The publication Within 2 months thereafter, the MECs concurred in terms of number 3 step there. The MDB determines the number of wards and delimits wards for local government. What does it use? It uses what we call the draft wards. The MDB published those in provincial gazettes, and then the MDB will consider. Oh no, Chair. Before I come to that one, it's that the chairperson issued Circular 1 and Circular 2. I'm still on number 4 on the draft wards, which is a process that triggered where we're at now. And once we are done, the board will then have all proposals, and the board will release another publication in terms of number 5 there, calling for members to note objections within 14-day period. And thereafter, the board will then consider the objections, make its final determination, which in law it's called functus officio, because we still do not have an appeals board. So the final decision will be published in the provincial gazettes and the other gazettes. The MDB will then submit the first phase final word boundaries to IEC on or before 31 October, and the other one in January as indicated to prepare for the LG 26-27. Next slide. The word delimitation process, I've indicated this aspect. We met with IEC. The words are delimited every 5 years. Before MDB commences with word delimitation, there are several activities, the awareness program, which we did on our own costs, and my officials were all over the show, including the board members to engage on the same. The minister addressed item number 4. Next slide. The MEC is responsible for concurrency there. The total number of wards in the country, obviously, I indicated that they will increase by the number 20 to 4,488. Eastern Cape, Free State, Northwest provinces will have slightly reduced number of wards. They were engaged. They were advised how to engage on the process and motivate, and they are doing exactly that in the legislated engagement processes. The number of wards are obtained by dividing the total number of councillors by 2. Therefore, the number of wards is a direct result of number of councillors as determined by the MEC. The MDB does not increase or decrease number of wards. However, if, for an example, there's 10,000 in wards, but it has increased to 20,000, and it is above the 15% threshold, it will be split. And for it not to be split, the motivations will come from the engagement, but still the board will work on what is legislated and in terms of its processes. Next slide. That's the historical background on what happened in 2016. It was 4,392, the total. The number of registered voters were 25 million. They increased to 26 million with 4,468 for 2021. And the current period is 27 million with 4,488 words. Now the decreases are depicted in the various slides. Next slide, please. No, it's not here, but the provinces have been shown how those decreases are made. Now the word delimitation process, awareness has commenced. I've indicated that the chairperson, together with board members and managers, have been running around. We met the National House, the provincial and local houses of traditional and Khoisan leaders, and they have motivated that in instances where their areas are changed in terms of word for councils and not words for traditional leaders, their motivations must be looked at. And today, the MDB is consulting with the particular Holomisa's constituency. Political parties, the chair will indicate he saw majority of those. There's also the IT party liaison committees, and they've asked us as management and their management to work on an ad hoc committee just to address those issues which are not necessarily captured in the MDB Act and or the IEC, but impacting directly on how we do things, so that we must come out smart in addressing those. The cocktail min-max, we present there. There's also the JEXCO with SALGA. We've got other, we are also at the IMC's technical and the political. We present that too, Chair. The MDB has also now been sort of phased into the Presidential Coordinating Committee, and obviously we'll be expected to make a number of presentations as we go towards LG 2627. We are high in COCTA MECs, MUNIMEX, and other fora where we make sure that our presence is felt in the advantage of the communities we serve. Several publications and engagements were made. We are forever on TV, radio, print media. And then there are those technical consultations where we do the smart work, which may not necessarily be addressed in the Act. And one part, Chair, is the one on the draft words. Now, I need to explain. The draft words, how they come out, Chairperson and members of committee, is that they sort of give an indicator what the ultimate outcome will be. But that ultimate outcome has to be engaged. Some members of society say, but if your draft words say you are going to split, you engage, we do objections, you still go according to the MDB and split and do not consider those aspects. Those are the issues which the committee must then go and look and make sure that the constituencies are well represented to further look at the supreme law. The municipal technical officials use GIS. Chair, we don't only use the drone as it was previously reported in the PC. We use drone where it is areas which are sort of amenable to technology, but in the main, we use both the technology and the physical consultations of the paper exercises, the physical contacts, which are quite pricey, Chair, and we are also dependent on the municipal district offices as well. Next slide. The public consultation processes is being conducted. I've touched on that. We are visiting all local and metropolitan municipalities. We are forever on the road. And in this time around, it's the entire board, the management, the officials, and the people there, just to make sure that we reach everyone there. The concerns are, there's the registry at Demarcation, where we note some of the concerns, and the information is also available on the Demarcation website. We ask that any other motivations, as I had indicated, must be sent to info@demarcation.org.za. And there will be confirmation that those will be responded to, because we use those as source of reference. And the MDB app, there's a link and it's there, and it can also be scanned using the QR code. Next slide. Chair, this has been presented before to the portfolio committee. We are on item number 7, and then we can go to item number. Yes, I'm rounding up, Chair. Number 8, and I've touched on this one. Next slide, please. And that is the history. We've got the 13 deferred cases. There's insufficient information, complexity of proposals, further research, and most of which are before the board. Next slide. The research and stakeholder being completed. After the process, the board will take a decision. The MDB plans to complete the exercise. Next slide. I leave this to the Honorable Chair. Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson of the board. The last slide.
No. Thanks, CD. Thanks, Chairperson, members of the Portfolio Committee. What we can also indicate, besides the APPs and also the strategic focus of the institution, is that at the moment, we have started with processes of ward delimitations. And members of the committee, by virtue of being politicians, we will request that they also inform their constituencies about our program, so that at least they also, as political parties, would then be giving guidance to their potential voters in the processes that we will be undertaking. With that, Chairperson, thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Chairperson and the CEO and the members of the Demarcation Board. May I request that the committee members could now open up with their comments? I've only got one hand. Okay. Honorable Mkalipi, Van Zyl, and then Mthethwa. Let's take it in that order. Thank you very much. Please take off the slide.
So who is starting, Chair?
Honorable Mkalipi is starting.
Okay. No, thank you very much, Chair. I'm welcoming the presentation from the Chair and the team, and good morning to colleagues. Chair, I have only two questions to the board, and I'm happy that the opening remarks of the Chair also talk to our concerns. Always when the MDB is coming to us, we always have the very same concern. But I didn't hear the Chair telling us how he addresses those concerns with his team. Number two, Chair, I want to check the bill, the independent bill that was processed. How far with that bill? When can we expect that bill to be completed? And the main thing that we have worried about all along, Chair, is the consultation process when it has to go to provinces. Because as the Chair was alluding to, the very same facts that we always raised, that it's going to compromise you because we don't have resources. You are depending on the speakers of the councils to go and bus people and do all other spade work for you. So how far in addressing that issue? Because we are not going to get a good result that you as a board, you want to achieve at the end of the day. If you're going to rely on the speakers of the council, and you said, Chair, board chair, you said we are politicians and this thing is about politics. There are factions in all municipalities. So therefore, it's not going to have an outcome that we desire if we are still going to rely on the municipalities. When are you going to have your own capacity? When are you going to have your own offices and do your own jobs that you're supposed to do in terms of consultation? So, Chair, the other report that we need to have is the process that have been started. And I was very happy to hear the presenter mention that that the committee must go and check which wards have been covered and which wards have been not covered. No, we need a report to say we've done the consultation, we are done with the consultation, this is the outcome of the consultation, because the community comes back after or towards the elections and come and complain to us, no, but this demarcation was not a good demarcation in terms of how they demarcated it. Others, they don't even attend those consultations. So therefore, we have to play our role as members of parliament to say, this is a report that how we demarcated, the new demarcation is look like, and then we go on our as members of parliament to engage those communities. Are you aware? Did you go? You were aware that there was a consultation on this day, etc. But in the absence of the report, not you are very helpless. Thanks, Chair.
You mentioned somebody else, Chair. Who is following?
Are you done, Honorable Mkalipi?
Yes, Chair, I'm done. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Honorable Van Zyl.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning to all the members and also our presenters from the MDB. I've got about 4 questions to start with on the budget and financial performance. So the first one is looking at the MDB's MTF budget estimates. The institution obviously remains resource constrained. Can you explain how these limitations have impacted your ability to expand into the unserved regions to grow your research capacity? So the rural areas, because obviously they're far and they require a lot more resources to get to. Then number 2, you mentioned the need for additional funding for ward delimitation and stakeholder consultations. What specific outcomes or deliverables will be compromised if this funding doesn't materialize? I know the chairperson or the CEO said that if they don't get the funding, there'll be some consequences. There has been consistent increase in your administrative expenditure. What value or efficiencies have been realized from these rising costs, especially for the taxpayer? And lastly, on the finance side, you've committed to achieving clean audits through to 27-28. What internal reforms or governance improvements are you implementing to ensure to reach and sustain that clean audit outcome? Then on achievements in local government, one of your stated objectives is inclusive and equitable municipal spaces. How do you measure the real life impact of this on communities, especially in historically marginalized areas? Then the last one on that is, with over 150 awareness and education initiatives completed, how are you tracking whether these engagements actually lead to increased public understanding and trust in the demarcation process? Then the vision also speaks to creating, and I quote, spatially transformed, equitable, and sustainable communities. How do you ensure that your ward and boundary decisions don't fragment communities? And to what extent do you take objections into account? I recall being a councillor in 2016, where the municipality I live in was amalgamated with another, and there was hordes and hordes of objections, and it seemed to have not even been taken into account. I suppose this is the political side that Honourable Mkalipi has also raised. Then we note the increase from 4,468 to 4,488 wards. We note that. And then just lastly, how does the MDB ensure that its boundary determinations and ward configurations contribute to more efficient local governance and access to services in practice, not just on paper? Because we know we have areas that is very rural, and I'm talking specifically in my municipality, where demarcation and delimitations happens, where it spans over 3 towns, for instance. This for ward committees becomes very unattainable and very difficult to do. Thank you, Chairperson.
Honorable Mtetwa, thank you very much, Honorable Francine.
Thanks, Chair, and greetings to our honorable members and also our presenters. Thanks for the opportunity. May I raise my question in the following manner? 1, what is the difference between land delimitation commission and what delimitation? Why? Because I'm tracing this to 1846, where Charles Saunders conducted a land delimitation commission wherein the land of Amakosi was actually taken from them to make way for the white settlement in the current modern day towns and cities. Furthermore to that question, it is linking me to a trend that I'm picking up that is happening. I see that in Lesotho, we have a party that is claiming that half of South Africa belongs to Lesotho. That's where then my first question on land delimitation to say is, are you involved in also processes whereby now our neighbors are claiming boundaries which are saying belong to them, yet we are regarding them as our boundaries, which is going to affect your ward delimitation process, because you are considering even the land which is being claimed by our neighbors. That is also informed by another trend. In 2018, our farmers, Afrikaners, they went to Swaziland to tell the king of Swaziland to say the land belonged to him. Therefore, they would rather than bringing the land back to South African government, they would rather it be given to Swaziland, which they are initiating another land delimitation process through our neighbors, yet they are still staying in our country here. Another point, which is in touching this regionalization, which you've mentioned here. There are people in Western Cape who are talking about Cape independence, which means they are taking us back to 4 regions in the east of South Africa, where you used to have Cape region and Natal and Transvaal region as the separation of the regions that we heard. And they are busy doing that. And the reason why I'm mentioning it, most of the whites who are staying in Transvaal, which is today marked by about 6 provinces, they are migrating from the upper part of the country coming to Western Cape because they are busy with this process of Cape independence, which means we are seeing a community of a racial group wanting to stay alone and then cutting out certain racial group because they are doing this not with everyone else, but they are doing it with themselves, which will have a spillover effect because then you will have an action-reaction whereby the natives who will also want to fight to say, hey, this is our land. Then immediately a racial spat will then begin. So we need to attend to that. This is even informed by the international community influencing the processes of boundaries or land boundaries. We are seeing a group of solidarity who went to US to talk about the issues of land, which eventually they want to advance the narrative of saying they want to stay in a Cape Independence where themselves alone. Yet we are claiming to be a rainbow nation, which means this rainbow nation thing of Mandela is being actually now disintegrated by the same people who loved Mandela after they took him to Robben Island. And now they are disintegrating his vision of a rainbow nation. This is another factor which I'm picking up in the process of what delimitation. The land of Amakosi is not being considered in the interest of Amakosi's land. I will give an example. KwaHlomendlini along N2, iNkosi uNgcobo, part of his land belonged to Mandeni local municipality, and another portion belongs to KwaDukuza local municipality. How did we arrive at that when we have one landlord, but his land is divided into two municipal boundaries, and which means the considerations were not done properly. It was advancing a particular narrow political racial agenda, which was ignoring a major stakeholder, which is Inkosi yakwaNgcobo. Another one, KwaMthethwa, in Vryheid, Paul Pietersburg, and Piet Retief. Piet Retief has now been carved out to belong to another province, which used to belong to KwaZulu. Then you have Inkosi yaKwaMthethwa, who is the extension from Vryheid, Paul Pietersburg, and Piet Retief, the branch of the Mthethwas and Piet Retief are now belonging to Mpumalanga province. And what Mpumalanga did was to then crown this branch of the Mthethwas who were under the Mthethwa king in KwaZulu-Natal. He is now independent king in Mpumalanga and is classified as such, yet the family tree is one and Inkosi is the one which is in Vryheid and Paul Pietersburg. These are the challenges that are caused by this process of land delimitation, and it doesn't consider the blacks. It's always a racial approach, which is actually undermining. Also, what the guys that are controlling the economy, or Oppenheimer and Rupert, they are undermining the what delimitation process, because part of the driving factors is the economic participation and increasing revenue base of certain local municipalities. So whilst you extend boundaries to allow certain economic generators to belong into a certain local municipality, what they then do in terms of influencing the leadership of those areas, they do what we call collusion in a political campaigning strategy, wherein you identify people who will lead a process that will take the votes that you thought would be actually shared in another boundary. Then they give to people who will campaign for them under pretense that they are independent parties. And then they take those votes to be counted as one vote block in advancing a narrative of one particular party. And this is what we see, which means the collusion in the election process to influence municipal processes of leadership and to influence the land delimitation and what delimitation processes. And these are things that we are not considering, that whilst we review boundaries, the issue of economics is being used against the objective of advancing the very objective that we want to do. Same applies in Marble Hall and Groblersdal.
Let's round up, Honorable Member.
Okay. In Groblersdal and Marble Hall, at some point they used to belong to Mpumalanga. And then now Marble Hall is now classified under Limpopo. But the communities are now splitted into two, because now these are Ndebeles who are belonging in the Mpumalanga region, but now they have to be classified into Limpopo province, because, and then it changes the culture and the language and every activities that they used to do. So this process, are we also able to consider the respect of the heritage and culture of the people whilst we do this to advance our own end? Thank you.
Thank you very much, honorable members. There are aspects of your comments or questions, Honorable Mteto, that I'm going to ask the Demarcation Board not to get into. The first one is the issue of the independence of the Cape. There has not been any assignment to the Demarcation Board to look into that matter. So it remains a political discussion that does not really need them to get involved in the discussion. The second one relates to the claim of people that some land belong to Lesotho or Swatini. Again, there's no current activity or assignment for the Municipal Demarcation Board to look into those issues. And so again, that belongs to a political debate, so which we don't need them to get involved in. Then the aspects which I think we have raised as well before relates to some of the issues that you raise now about the demarcation of one community into two different provinces, either traditional leadership or a settled community that then they belong to two different provinces or two different districts. Last time we gave a complaint or a letter. It came from someone who was who had a farm that was split between Limpopo and Mpumalanga. It's one property. So some of these are the issues that we have asked the board to look into. The issues in relation to the shifting boundaries, there's been a lot of that, which again, I think maybe they can comment on. Pongola, used to be in KwaZulu-Natal, then Eastern Transvaal, and then later changed, and then Piet Retief, similar issues. And then communities out there, Nkosi, Mahlobo, it's the same problem. One group this side, the other group in Swatini. And there are many communities which have got that problem, especially around the border, where communities are split between Eswatini or Lesotho with South Africa. So these are issues that can be commented on. Having said so, let me ask the members to look to respond to the issues that they could. I've removed those other two issues mainly because I think they belong to a political discussion which I don't want us to take too much time on as we speak. We should just focus on what has been tabled by the Demarcation Board. Mr. Manyoni, please come through.
Thanks very much, Chairperson. Yes, Chairperson, when I was listening to members, I was tempted to say we have been summoned to give progress report on the annual performance plans and also the strategic objective of the institution, and not much on other matters that need the committee members to debate either in Parliament or somewhere else. But nonetheless, Chairperson, we also have the Deputy Chair.
I have ruled on those, so I don't want
Yes,
you to
Chair.
go back to those issues.
We also have the
Pass on your
Deputy Chair.
mandate.
We also have the Deputy Chair of the Municipal Demarcation Board here. I would also give him an opportunity to respond on some of the issues. The main issue, Chair, which has been raised, is the issue of our program or our wish to have provincial offices, which we call regionalization. We have brought this matter to the attention of Treasury, and also we have brought it to the attention of COCTA. COCTA at the moment is looking into using its own savings, and they also were indicating that given the fact that they had to deal with the problem of our, community-based workers as the department, which basically brought to them, in terms of audit finding, the unauthorized expenditure and so on. So they've been having problems there to assist us, but nonetheless, they are looking into the budget to kickstart the process that we basically have been fighting for, Chairperson. But generally, in terms of
Recording stopped.
But generally, with the budgetary processes and the allocations, it would, of course, be something else. I would request that the
Recording
Deputy
in
Chairperson
progress.
and the CEO first respond to some of the questions so that we can be able to give clarity on the issues that have been raised. Dr. Mahale, you can start, please. Respond on some of the issues that have been raised.
Chair, thank you very much. Good morning to the chair of the committee and members of the committee. Let me just take two issues. Broadly regarding public participation, Honorable Chair, there was a question as to whether we consult enough and whether we think the processes that we're engaging on are leading to increased understanding in terms of the processes. I think we have always been on record to say that we would like to do enough. We think that we have done enough. We think that we continually do the efforts to increase our participation. What is evident in the number of engagements we have is that there are two things. On the one hand, yes, indeed, there's an increased understanding. On the other hand, as much as people may understand what the board does, it's very clear that legislation is not appreciated for what it says at the current moment, and therefore, despite understanding, there is still elements of unhappiness. I will give example in terms of the current processes we're engaged on regarding consultations. We would explain that in terms of the Act, both the Structures Act and the Demarcation Act, the minister would determine the formula in consultation of SALGA, and then the MECs will gazette the number of councillors. Only once that is done, the Demarcation Board will then take the number of councillors gazetted by MECs, divide that by 2 in order to determine the number of votes. Despite the fact that that is clear on paper, many members of communities, councillors, mayors, and speakers would still think that it is the Demarcation Board that either increases or reduces the number of councillors. We explained that in terms of legislation. Others do understand, others still feel that something could be done. The approach that we are then taking, honorable members, you will recall that when the CEO was introducing the board earlier, he did indicate that one of the board members is actually largely tasked by COGTA to coordinate the entire process of local government amendments, laws review. We then said that because of where we are, evidence suggested that the current approach in terms of the weaknesses is the formula that is being used. We'll then use this approach, this process, to make our submission in terms of how this could be done differently, because for as long as the formula remains in place as it is, we'll continue to come to the portfolio committee, these concerns will be raised. We'll go to committees, these concerns will be raised. Now, the only way in which this could be dealt with is to leverage on the current process to see how this could be changed altogether. It needs an overhaul. Failing which, the comment that was made in terms of fragmentation or splitting of communities, it will continue to happen, not by design, but by default, because once the formula is determined, you have got the norm that you have to operate within, minimum numbers and maximum numbers. At times, unintentionally, in order to build or constitute words that are legal, that the IEC can use for purposes of conducting elections, you are bound to be within those numbers. And by default, at times, it results in the splitting of communities, not by design, Chair. I need to emphasize that. So we do leverage on IGR platforms that are there, and we must acknowledge that based on our engagement with, there was a slide that spoke to the number of institutions that we have engaged thus far. it does seem that this understanding is there, but understanding does not necessarily mean absence of dissatisfaction, and that we acknowledge. But IGR platforms does compensate for lack of regionalization that the chair already spoke into that, until and unless we are able to exist independently in provinces. Unfortunately, Honorable Mkhalipi, there will always be those gaps in terms of visibility of MDB being felt, but IGR platforms do assist. And in terms of the current processes, we must indeed acknowledge that municipalities are on board, they are supporting, and then we acknowledge. We would love to acknowledge that. I do think, Chair, I needed to amplify the point regarding public participation, that yes, it could be that on surface it is not sufficient, but we are trying to be creative enough. I think the committee also be aware, or we need to indicate that part of what we have also done in the past few years and continue to do quite well is also to increase our media engagement, so that beyond physical meetings that we have with stakeholders, we also use local community radio stations. We also use national stations and TV to make sure that the message is out there and it understood. So this is where we are, and we do think that compared to where we were previously, there seems to be a progress. The last part I want to indicate, and I will just cite the number of, I'll just give a rough figure of the processes that we engaged in 2021 in relation to the question as to whether we do listen, we do consider objections or not. Chair, we do. The wards that were configured in 2021, out of the total of about 1,200 in which were MDB drafts, 93% were reconfigured on the basis of the submissions received from communities. So we need to confirm on record that indeed MDB does consider objections, does consider submissions from the public. The only instances where MDB will not agree to objections and we give reasons is where submissions would be non-compliant with the criteria, and reasons will be given why submissions would not be considered favorably, and we have done that in the past. We'll even continue to do so in the current process. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I'll be quick and I'll go in order of the questions themselves. The MDA bill is in the select committee, and I think 4 or 5 provinces have now been consulted. And in line with the request made by the DC, I think the chair can then meet with the chair of the select committee to see whether or not 2 areas can be looked at and be included in that process. It is that one on the number of councillors as indicated by the DC, and also the fact that in the MDB Act itself, there must be reference made to the supremacy of the Constitution and how that can be sort of worked in terms of the Act and the process of the MDB. Now, the consultation with minimal resources, I've indicated, Chair, and I will also indicate here, 44 staff members at the MDB. We split them. We make sure that they go out of their way. We've done our best, Chair, to achieve all targets of the APP, and at no stage have we come under 90%. And that part is what we do. But I have indicated, as Honorable Member Van Zyl raised, that the department and us are engaging in Q1 to end of June to go and look at whether or not they can fund finding to ensure that we concentrate on the need for extra funding, and that if there's going to be any compromise, it will be in Q1. But if the department comes back with positive results, there won't be the compromises Honorable Member mentioned. Now, the value increases of the expenses, Chair, has to be compared with us doing more with less. Remember, it's only increases in the limited funds we have and the smart operations. And it's incidental to us plugging gaps which are necessitated by the outcome of public engagements, which sometimes will ensure that we sort of digress from the set targets because we are operating within the dictates of the environment and the political cycle the chair knows about. The clean audit, we are looking at it, we want it, we've had it for 4 consecutive years, and when it was raised on issues of financial matters, and that regression aspect has been attended to, but not on the performance of the MDB. Now, Honorable Van Zyl also raised the inclusive and equitable special spaces. It is here where I indicated that if you look at our strategic plan, it says we talk about inclusive growth. It talks about spatial integration, but it cannot be when motivations are raised by communities, which will lead to spatial disintegration, racial disaggregation. The issues which were raised about certain areas looked at as though they will cover for a particular voter capacity. Those are issues which, when we go to the engagements, the constituencies must raise them rigorously so that they get tapped into the recommendations which will go to the board, which DC says are considered under the 93% rate. I've touched on the spatial spaces, Chair. In the presentation itself, we are not here to fragment societies. We are here to integrate them. But where we fragment them, it's because of the limited scope within the MDA Act. And now the Deputy Chair is indicating that the part. There was also a research about certain amalgamations having worked and others not having worked. And obviously, when objections are raised, they do referencing to those, and the board do consider those as well. I've indicated about noted increased words, and the Deputy Chair has done that again. And it is good to hear that it is not that the draft words are a conclusion of the board. The conclusion of the board will come after the aspect. Then there's the efficiency in local government, and not only on paper, the research capacity. I was hoping the Chair will indicate that he has been going around indicating that the MDB is trying to do what we call aftercare capacity assessments or enhanced capacity assessments, clearly because in the form we feel it shows a municipality capacitated, and as such, we then send the report to respective stakeholders, and later it turns out it is a fallacy. And those are the issues which the chairperson might, if you want. I think, Chair, I've covered everything because luckily, Chair, you covered the one of Honorable Zolaka Mteta. The only aspect is that there's a difference between the MDB restricted to municipalities and wards, and then we've got the Department of Justice together with other departments.
You are also straying into that. Please don't go there. I don't need you to elaborate.
Yes,
You
okay, thank you,
started a
Chair.
debate which I don't think we really want to entertain.
I thank you, Chair. I thank you, Chair. I just want to check if there are no hands from my support staff, then that's my end of explanation. Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much, Chairperson, members of the board, and CEO. Thank you very much. That, I think, at this point concludes our engagement. Thank you very much. We will, at this point, excuse you out of the platform. Thanks again. We do want you to keep this in mind. The problem of using the limited instruments in your hands and requirements of the mandate of the board, of the demarcation board, when you split communities, that's the part we have a problem. Excuse me. When we've got a problem with. Communities must be kept functionally cohesive, because you've got, you know, a particular relationship that makes them work. You've got particular service centers that are convenient to them. So let's not, you know, use the law to actually create that split. That's our concern. People shouldn't be split away from the services and the communities that they work with, and then we can talk about how that would need to be intervened on if there is a problem of the numbers not matching. But we really have a serious problem with that one. But with the rest of the other issues, thank you very much for your explanations. At this point, you are then excused. Thank you, Chairperson, Mr. Mannion, and your team. You will be excused off the platform. May I then take the opportunity to welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Welcome. Let me take the opportunity to invite the chairperson, Ms. Kalova, Ms. Mkwana Kalova, to show their face, and the members to introduce the team and show as they are introduced. Then we can start the presentation. Honorable members, we move to yes. Miss Mkwanazi Kalova, please introduce your team, ask them to show their faces. Please remove the screen for now, the slide for now so we can see the members. Yes, thank you. Please let's see the members and then you can open the slides.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. My name is Togom Kwanas Kaluva, the newish chairperson of the Sarah Rights Commission. We were appointed from the 1st of January 2025. Next to me is Prince George Mahlangu, who is the Deputy Chairperson of the Sarah Rights Commission. I would like to thank you for this opportunity for us to have our first meeting with the Portfolio Committee. And we will be asking the CEO, Dr. Mafatsa, to carry on with the work. I'll then have comments at the end of his presentation.
Well,
Thank you very much. Honorable Chair.
Let me congratulate you and welcome you to this portfolio. I know you're very new and also very, very familiar with this territory. The last we were interacting with the CRL Commission, there was no board in place. It was the CEO, Mr. Mafasa, and the rest of the members. At this point, therefore, we are pleased to see that this appointment has been done. So welcome and congratulations. You may then proceed with the presentation.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Please show the slides and proceed with the presentation so long. You may be muted, CEO. You may be muted.
Yes, Chair. Good morning, Chairperson, and good morning to the honorable members. I just hope, Chair, that the Chairperson of the Demarcation Body is still around. Good morning, and the colleagues from the other side. We are coming before you this morning with the Chair and the DC, as the Chairperson indicated, together with management responsible for different departments. So I'll start now with the presentation, Chairperson, and I will try to run through. I'll take it that the presentation has been read. So this presentation, Chair, will cover, in terms of the outline, the introductions. We'll talk to institutional arrangements and the mandate, also the achievements, in a nutshell, the 2020, in a brief form, 2024-2025 targets, but also cover strategic plan for the fiscal years 2025-2030, annual performance plan 2025-2026, and then we'll also talk to the medium-term expenditure framework and the challenges. Chair, these are just the names for the benefit of the members of the Portfolio Committee. For the members that have been appointed, indicated, headed by Chairperson Ms. Tokom Kwanas Kalova, Deputy Chair, Mr. George Mahlangu. Your presentation is not moving. Or Chair, are you able to see the presentation? My colleagues are.
Yes, the presentation is visible. I think they can just improve by making the slides bigger, but it's visible. You can proceed. I'm not sure who's your who's managing the slide.
Yeah, can you see?
But please proceed. We can see the presentation.
Is it moving, Chair?
It's not moving.
Yeah, that's
It's not
where we have a
moving.
bit of a.
Who's the manager?
She's here. She's working on it quickly.
Okay, there you are. There, it's moving now. You can proceed. You can
Thank
talk
you,
so
Chair.
long. Don't worry that someone else is trying to fix it. Proceed with your presentation.
Yeah, just to put the faces of the leadership of the Commission, Chair. These are some of the members that are appointed part-time. And I will mention their names because perhaps some members may not know. We have Sakane also as a member, part-time appointed, and Professor Mohale Mahopa. We also have Advocate Obris Dupane and also Dr. Tsulufelo Maschaba Musala. They are all part-time. Dr. Ranjendran Govender, as well as Mr. James Petros Mapank. They are all part-time. Prof. Munir and also Advocate Mantula. They joined the part-time commissioners, as well as Dr. Pito and Ms. Donna Makoboka. Those are part-time commissioners, Chair. For the benefit of members, only two members are full-time. That is the chairperson and deputy chair. So the presentation, Chair, is going to cover, as I've indicated, the strategic plan and annual performance plan as well, and as well as the second and third quarters performance reports, second and third quarters financial reports. Now, if we look at this slide, Chair, on my left-hand side is just showing that the board or the plenary of the commission, we don't call it a board in the Sierra Rights Commission in terms of our act, it's a plenary. A plenary is a committee of commissioners that makes decisions of the commission, but also supported by Section 22s on the left-hand side, categorizing different departments linked to the units of the commission. The first one being the investigation and conflict resolution, research, second one, public education and advocacy, the third one, the fourth one, communications, marketing and information, and corporate and support services committee, including the finance committee as well. So there are in total 6. On the right-hand side, these are the departments or programs of the commission linked to these committees: administration, investigation and conflict resolution, research, public engagement, communications, marketing, and technology. The mandate, Chair, I'm not going to spend time. I think we've talked about the mandate many times, unless the new members, but I think it's there. Established by Section 185 of the Constitution, 1A, B, C, basically to promote respect for the rights of cultural and linguistic, religious and linguistic communities, to promote and develop peace, friendship, humanity, tolerance, and national unity among cultural, religious, and linguistic communities on the basis of equality, non-discrimination, and free association, and also to recommend the establishment or recognition in accordance with national legislation of a cultural or other council or councils for a community or communities in South Africa. So the objects, Chair, I will not read them as I've indicated, but I think I will be interested in this slide that talks to the powers and functions, Chair, that we are there mainly to conduct information, in terms of sharing information, education information to communities on the work that we do as a commission, but also to conduct programs to promote respect and further the protection of the rights of cultural, religious, and linguistic communities. Also to educate, to facilitate conflict, but also to make recommendations to the appropriate organs of state, but also to receive and deal with requests that comes from the communities. So, Chair, on this slide now, we look at the slide that just gives a bit of an indication on how we performed in terms of the 2024-25 targets when it comes to the annual program. We are happy that we have achieved all our targets, though these targets are still not audited. But from our own preparations, we see that the targets that we had set for ourselves have been achieved. So, and this slide shows the targets in terms of the annual, targets that were set. We can see, Chair, that we do not have any variance in terms of the unaudited achievements that we have. This is just a graphical presentation in terms of how our annual results stands per program in the organization, which will be covered mainly when we do the annual report. On this slide then, Chair, we talk about the reports of the second and third quarters in terms of the request from the committee. So if we look at the programs there, we're still operating under the same programs that I have actually indicated in the preceding slides, but also looking at the indicators of program 1 as 8 and indicators of program 2 as 3, and 3, which is research 1, and then public education 5. And so we have the indicators to a total of 17, and the targets as well to a total of 17 as per the different programs that are shown in that slide, in this slide. And when we go to the quarterly targets achieved, we have put quarter 2, quarter 3 to show the targets that were set for each quarter. And the last column there is showing the achieved targets for quarter 2, quarter 3. So if we look at the overall achievement of these, targets, we can see that program 1 had actually achieved 6 in terms of the quarter 3 and quarter 2. And then we did not achieve the 2 targets for each quarter. And we'll explain why, but now that we are even in the fourth quarter, that has already been covered in the fourth quarter. That's why we are talking about the annual report that has achieved all the targets. So if we look at investigation and conflict resolution, we achieved all the targets there, including research and also public education. So if we look at the overall achievement of targets for quarter 2 and quarter 3, they're standing at 15 each. And those that were not achieved for quarter 2 and quarter 3 is 2 each, as I've indicated in the explanation. So this is just another graphical presentation of the quarterly targets for the second quarter in terms of the programs, as to how we fared as a commission. And this one also represents the third quarter in terms of all the programs and how we fared as a commission. So this slide of program 1 administration, it talks now into a bit of details for program 1, including second and third quarter. And now we can then see on quarter 2 and quarter 3 where we are saying the targets that were not achieved. The reason that we give there is that the target was not met due to late appointment of commissioners. This target has to do with the resolutions and recommendations from plenary that needs to be implemented. However, when this team of commissioners were appointed early in January, they got into work and immediately covered some of the meetings that were supposed to take place when there was no plenary or a board to make it easier. And a catch-up program then was done in the fourth quarter after commissioners were appointed early in January for us to achieve those targets that we couldn't in the absence of the commissioners. So when we look in the second column of the same slide, and the third and fourth, all targets then were achieved, and we did not have a reason to give in terms of deviation there. On this slide again, still in program 1, we can see how quarter 2 and quarter 3 fared. So in quarter 2, 25 was the target, 25% in terms of workplace skills development, but we achieved 39%. The reason being that there was a backlog that was carried over from the previous quarters, and that increased the percentage in terms of the target. And then quarter three also 94%, which is an overachievement. So if we look at the issue of percentage of dealing with issues of internal and external audit findings, we had aimed in quarter two and quarter three that we will deal with them 100%, but in quarter two we managed to do 53.84, and quarter three we managed to do 87.5%. And the reason being that the process of verifying the purchase orders issued using the old supply chain management prescripts delayed us in terms of achieving the 100% as was planned. But as we speak now in the fourth quarter, we managed to catch up with the program. All the process of issuing those orders were reviewed and done with all of them. So if we look at the third column there, we do not have any target that was not met. So even including the last column, we have achieved all the targets there. In program two, still looking at second and third quarters. So following the same trend in issues of complaints, quarter two and quarter three, the target 80%, quarter two, quarter three, 40%, and we managed to achieve 78%, quarter two and quarter three, 90%. And the target in the third quarters was overachieved due to more complaints dealt with through referral system. So we had so many cases that where we felt we needed to refer them to other institutions who can actually better deal with those lodged complaints. But with the appointment of the new commissioners, we're also looking at how this system should work so that, we continuously monitor the implementation of the referred cases to other departments by the commission so that it becomes much more impactful. So if we look at the other column in the same slide, we can see that we've actually achieved everything. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time there, Chair. Just to show that in the second and third quarters, when we combine the targets, we can say that we received about 37 cases, and 17 cases were related to culture, 18 cases were related to religion, and 2 cases were related to language in those quarters. So we managed to finalize 31 of those cases, and the only remaining cases from third quarter is still in progress and will be prioritized in the fourth quarter, which is the first quarter of 25-26 financial year. I mean, they will be prioritized now in the new financial year. So if we look at this slide, second and third quarters narratives are combined still, it's just to continue with some of the examples of the cases that we dealt with. And I'll just mention perhaps one complaint relating to access to the municipal land to conduct initiation school. This is a challenge that we find that people do not have land where they can actually practice initiation school, especially in urban areas. I'm not going to go to all the cases, but just to scout, maybe pick one on the referred cases that can be just an example. The one that relates to the land claim to the Constitutional Court, which we referred a complaint relating to a land claim to the Constitutional Court. Chief Land Claims Commissioner, Regional Land Claims Commissioner. However, no assistance was received. That was the nature of the complaint that we received. So the complainant was advised to refer his complaint to the Department of Land Reform and Rural Development and to the Office of Public Protector for unreasonable delay by the government institutions in service delivery, because the person was just saying the matter is taking long. That is just an example of some of the cases. I will jump others, Chair, that we referred, taking it that members might have actually read. So I'll come to the comparative analysis of the cases in the second and third quarter. So we stand there to a total of 17 cases. This is just showing the cultural cases spread per province as to how they came to the commission. So in this quarter, we can see Mpumalanga was leading, followed by KwaZulu-Natal in terms of cultural cases. When it comes to religious cases in the same period, we can see that we stand at about 18 cases, and that was led by Gauteng, followed by KwaZulu-Natal in terms of religious cases. In this slide, we show the language cases in the same period, where we stand at 2, and Western Cape and Limpopo province are sharing each complaint as it stands when it comes to issues of language in the period under review or in the second and third quarters reports. So then we come to, again, the issue of legislative reviews. What are the issues that we reviewed in terms of legislations? Just giving an example, I will also not spend much more time on this, the issue that we referred to Home Affairs Department, where we had to review, we had to review and made recommendations to the Department of Home Affairs on life partnership cohabitation possible legislation, as the issue of life partnership cohabitation was excluded in the single marriage bill and the department's white paper. So we made an input on that as a commission, and also to the Department of Health on the issues of traditional health practitioners regulations, as was gazetted on 21 June 2024. So we then looked at the issues of reviewing the bylaws, which is this is much more focusing on municipalities, and this time we were looking at the Free State province, and we can look at the focused municipalities there, where the commission was actually doing the reviews there. And of course, we are saying the purpose of the review of these bylaws on land use was to ensure that municipalities provide zones for establishment of structures and buildings for religious purposes, and that such zones are clearly indicated in their land use schemes. I think members will recall that we have also reported in other provinces on the same outcome focus, and it's a continuous work that we do in different provinces and different municipalities to try and assist them to align. So our observations in terms of the reviews of the bylaws as a commission is that, especially in the Free State, is that we observed that in 8 municipalities, only 1 municipality, which is Machabeng municipality, had a land use scheme. Other municipalities have not yet developed the land use scheme, and the land use scheme serves as a simple indicator tool for the category of land use buildings that can be used for religious purposes. So the absence of this scheme negatively affects religious communities in that they might erect churches at the incorrect zones and find themselves on the wrong side of the bylaw. Just to give life to some of the reviews that we have done. In program 3, which is research, publication, and policy development, we've achieved all the targets, and we were focusing on 2 reports in quarter 2, and 1 in quarter 2 and 1 in quarter 3. In quarter 2, we were focusing on the status of isiHlubi, isiPhondo, and Spulana languages, their usage and recognition as regional languages. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time in terms of what the objectives were, but perhaps I must just mention one that was saying we were trying to identify effective strategies for promoting and protecting the isiHlubi, isiPhondo, and Spulana languages as they fall within the category of marginalized languages, amongst others. So the challenge that we were trying to investigate here for the benefit of the members is that these languages spoken by communities in various regions of South Africa are not necessarily being used effectively. Despite their rich cultural heritages and significant role in community identity, these languages are not recognized as official. As a result, these languages find themselves underdeveloped, underrepresented, and not supported in environments such as schools, community, or government offices. This lack of official recognition, development, and support has also led them to either becoming diminished or diminishing heritages. The change of policy to recognize these languages as either provincial or regional official languages could see them develop and saved from extinction. So that is mainly the work that drove us to engage into that project. so that we can come up with some tangible, recommendations. So the findings, of course, is that there is lack of formal recognition of these languages in the main. Of course, this affects children in schools because at home they speak different languages. When they are in school, they are taught in different languages, which puts them in a disadvantage compared to other learners. So most students find themselves compelled by circumstances to compete in schools with their peers who write exams in their mother tongues and are expected to pass them. But with them, their mother tongue languages are not being used. Hence, we are talking about the issue of provincial official languages with time, that we should be able to consider those areas. Then the recommendations, of course, in terms of this project, we made some recommendations to the Department of Communication, some to PENSALB to develop this and standardize those languages, and then the Department of Education to consider also hiring people who speak those languages where possible. And then where PENSALB also, as I've indicated, to provide some comprehensive language resources. Develop comprehensive language resources for those languages. If we look at the project number 2 that we dealt with in Q3, we focused on challenges and means related to the passing down of the cultural practices and traditions to the younger generations, the elders' perspective. In this study or research, we were trying to solve the problem that the intergenerational transmission of cultural practices and traditions face increasing challenges in today's rapidly changing world. The elders' greatest concern is that as custodians of culture and heritage, they find it difficult to impart their cultural values, traditional knowledge, social norms, and cultural practices to a modern technology, advanced, culturally disconnected, and Western culture-oriented younger generation. So our young people being much more attracted to the modern Western cultures and so on and so forth, then our cultures do suffer. So that's what we wanted to find out, and our objectives identify the primary challenges elders face in passing down cultural practices, because we are concerned that we may remain with children or young people who may not know exactly what their cultural practices are. So the transfer is very, very important while the elders are still available. So just to give one objective. So the findings there is that indeed there is a generational disconnect, as more and more young people do not share the same interests in traditional customs as their elders. So I'm not going to read all the findings. I take it that the report has been read, but perhaps to pick up one of the recommendations there, we are saying we must be able to, the issue of incorporation of technology and social media in teaching about culture, that we must be able to still teach our cultural practices and transfer our cultural values through these modern technologies that these young people are much more attracted to. So that is one area, but there are other recommendations that we have made there, which I'm not going, Chairperson, to waste a lot of time. So I'll go to program 4 that talks to public education and information. In this program, we have achieved all the targets in Q2 and Q3. We have actually overachieved, and it's because in Q1 we still had some targets that were not reached, so we balanced them between Q2 and Q3 and Q4. And as we stand now, we have achieved all the targets at the end of this financial year. So just to show that we had to do combined in Q2, Q3, about 21 public engagements and about 20 awareness campaigns. And then these are the footprints of where these campaigns and engagements were done. And there we show the dates, we show the areas that we went to. So I'm not going to also spend a lot of time on this slide. I take it that members might have perused this, including this slide that I'm on now that shows the awareness campaigns in different places where we went, just to show the footprint, but also the educational engagements showing the dates also and the footprint of where we went to do this kind of work. So we were all over, running around the country in terms of this program as well. So if we look at the educational campaigns, still also we're just showing the footprints as well, like we did with the awareness campaigns as well. So it's the continuation there of the footprint. And the people that we engaged with in other areas in terms of public engagement. So I am now just going to touch a little bit of what the communities are saying in terms of these engagements and what their concerns are. Some of the community members, they say they were not consulted during the process of developing the Customer Initiation Act of 2021, which is a very serious concern because many of them now, they must play a role in terms of making sure that the very same legislation is implemented effectively at a local level. So when we popularize some of the issues that and the compliance issues that they must do, they are saying, you see, we were not consulted, so we must do a lot of work around that. Or if there is going to be an opportunity of a review, we must take this point into consideration when we are consulting with people. Some people, they say they were not satisfied with the issue of spiritual initiation of children and youth. This has to do with the manifestation of spirituality in schools, especially in high schools. Some people are saying they are not very much, satisfied with what is happening in schools. So the Department of Education is concerned about the issue of spiritualities at schools, which always disturb teaching and learning currently. But as we've indicated in the past, that we are trying to engage also with the relevant sector to assist us to deal with these kind of issues in schools. And they hold a different opinion that usually these kind of practices do not manifest themselves at an early age. They do allow or provide space for children to learn. And then when they are of age, then they can, practice this, go through these initiations. But these are issues of continuous engagement with communities and the relevant sector and the relevant affected people. So some of the issues that communities are raising when we engage with them is that they raised what another issue raised was of the churches that are not allowing people to practice their culture, where people are only allowed to wear their cultural, dresses or do cultural practices only on Heritage Month, which is September. But throughout the whole year, if they do something in churches, then it becomes questionable. Just to give some of the concerns from the communities. So I'll pass these concerns, Chair, taking it that we have actually read them, and I'll come to communications, where we can just see now how we managed to deal with issues of Facebook. We managed to attract about 13,000 followers in the two combined quarters. And if we look at the interviews that the Commission managed to do in the quarter under review, several interviews were also conducted. We issued media reports, statements as well during that time. Coming to the 2025-2030 strategic plan, Chair, when the new commissioners came in, we went for a strategic planning in March, and we managed to...
I'm sorry to disturb you. You've got 10 minutes towards completing your presentation. Proceed, please.
Thank you, Chair. So the vision, values, and mission stands as they are. We did not change much. And the next slide there is the impact, Chair. Did not change much as well from the past. And so we are standing now on a 5-year target, just to show in terms of the outcomes, good corporate governance there, strengthened conflict resolution and legislative reviews. Those percentages that we are targeting for 5 years, I will not go through them, including the informed and participative communities. We are showing in terms of on the CRL Rights Commission, work, and then we can see that we are aiming to have about 300 information and educational sessions in 5 years, and also establish community councils to a total of 27 at a provincial level. and also be able to do 10 media monitoring and analysis reports. Just to show a bit of that, I'm rushing now. We're using the same institutional arrangement. On this slide now, we are focusing more on a glance to a theory of change, but I think I will not spend time there. So in terms of the strategic plan, program 1, administration, we can see now the annual targets that we are going to have in the as per the directive of the new strategic plan. We can see now under the medium-term targets for program 1, this is we are actually earmarking about 100% of recommendations and to be implemented, and of course targets of 4 for each year for the reviewed performance reports, and also 100% of compliant in terms of invoices processed and paid within 30 days for good corporate governance. On this slide, still program 1, we can see targeting 4 quarterly internal audit reviews, 100% of approved annual performance agreements, and also 100% of queries that we deal with in terms of internal and external audit findings, 4 reports on implementation risk management strategy. So many of them, the targets have changed, but the same phrasing of what we want to do, our activities. Program 2 there, we're still seeing the annual targets there, 80% of new complaints handled and 80% of carried over cases. And we still focus on 100% of reviewing the bills and the 245 reviewed municipal bylaws in the 5 years in line with our strategic planning. So in the medium term, there's now spread into 3 years, 80% for complaints, and then 100% for bills, and 245 reviews, and then 260 and 260 in the last 2 years in the medium term. Program 4, we still focus on 4 research reports, and then we are still in the medium term to say each year we'll be producing 4 reports. Program 3, we can look at the 60 public information and education sessions, but also the issue of recognizing provincial councils, about 6 as annual targets there. In the medium term, they are all spread into 6 information sessions, 60 each for each year, and then 6 formation of provincial community councils for each year in the medium term. Program 5, which is communications, is the issue of media activity reports per annum, which is for 4 of them, and then 4 reports on IT efficiency, 99.8%, uptime, 98%, ticket resolution within ICT governance framework. I'm rushing there, and then when we come to medium-term target, that's how we are categorizing them. Output 1 then is 4 for each year, and then again 4 reports on IT in the medium term. I'm not going to give a lot of this slide is very, very important, Chair, because it then gives a direction in terms of the issues, some of the issues we'll be dealing with in all these engagements. One being the promotion and protection of customer initiation practice, ensuring Customer Initiation Act 2 of 2021 is adhered to by all relevant stakeholders in preservation of young lives. Then another one is the consultation on the establishment of religious peer review councils or committees, and then promotion and protection of South African Sign Language as the 12th official language, and promotion and protection of ukuhlolwa as a cultural practice within the confines of relevant legislation, that is Children's Act Section 12, and the promotion and protection of the Khoi and San community cultures, religion and languages and heritages, and review of the bylaws that impact on religious and cultural rights of communities, with special emphasis on recycling of graves, animal slaughtering, and land use of religious and cultural purposes. Those are the priority areas there. Then if we go to the finance part of our presentation, we can see now Chair, the medium-term expenditure framework budget there. If we look at the program 1 there, it stands, we are giving a background on audit outcomes 2021, 2022, 2023, and then adjusted appropriation for 2024, 2025. So if we look at the medium-term expenditure for program 1, we can see it stands at 18.637 on in the first year, the second year 19.513, and the last year 20.391. So if we go to program 2, medium term, again, we can see we're standing at 3.496. The second year will be 3.661, and the last year will be standing at 3.825. If we go to program 3, we can see that we are standing at 2.907, and second year 3.044, and the last year will be standing at 3.180. And program 4 will be standing, in terms of the medium term, will be standing at 3.106, and then 3.252, the last year 3.399, and the last program will be standing at 3.747 in the first year, the second year 3.923, and then 4.100 in the last year. Those and then goods and services, of course, in the first year 14.334 and 12.846, the last year 13.114. So that is the total revenue for quarter 2 and quarter 3 stands at quarter 2 23,720, while quarter 3 it was 35,554. Composition of employees at 14 in quarter 2 and 19 in quarter 3. Operational expenditure 12,996 quarter 2, and then 16,139 in quarter 3. Then the total expenditure will then stand for quarter 2 27,044, in the quarter 3 35,964. So and then we have those surplus for quarter 2 3.324, and quarter 3 410. Slide then shows the allocations for programs. I think for quarter 2 and quarter 3, administration 15,287, and then quarter 3 21,329. Investigation and conflict resolution, which is quarter 2 1,372 and 2,123. The third program, which is research and policy development, quarter 2 is stands at 1,518, and then quarter 3 2,286. Program 4 6,572. Program 3 in quarter 3 7,159, and then the last program stands in quarter 2 2.263, and then quarter 3 3.067. So the total expenditure stands as 27 for quarter 2 and 35 for quarter 3. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the chart title, so I'll leave that one, Chair, and come to some of the challenges that the Commission is experiencing. The issue of limited funding, that the Cereals Commission continues to operate under a very tight and limited budget, and then delayed appointment of commissioners also. The commissioners were appointed 6 months late. That was a challenge which we think next time we should be proactive on it. Then delayed budget approval and reprioritization. Budget could not be approved without commissioners because they were appointed late. So that actually another one is the limited strategic planning window, rollover of the retaining funds. So that's the point I wanted to make, that the late appointment also, which affected the approval of the use of some monies, then also made us to remain with some retainings currently. But those retainings are being reprioritized for this new strategic direction, and engagements with Treasury to assist us in the approval process of these retained earnings has already been made in terms of meetings with the Treasury. They guided us on what we should do. Then the dependency on the retained fundings, because we are very much depending on the retained funds now to be able to roll out some of the major projects identified by the new team of commissioners. And going forward, once these are depleted, we may experience some challenges. but I'm sure the support of the committee and the support of the departments for us to be able to operate effectively will be it is anticipated in that regard. I will then ask the chair to have the closing remarks, if any, and then I will end here, Chairperson, through you.
Thank you
Okay,
very much.
thank you, CEO. I think for us as the new commission, our challenge is around budget. Our budget is not enough to do what needs to be done, and not having provincial offices really deprives the people whom we're supposed to be servicing from accessing our services. So we have that challenge for now, and that for me will be just my concluding remarks, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thanks to the CEO for the presentation. At this point, we'd like to open for the members of the committee. Honorable members, I should have noted the apologies. I think Gosip Telezi and Honorable Taibosh. Gosip Telezi is not able to join us. Honorable Taibosh is stuck with a poor signal, so he comes in and out. And Honorable Kalipi had to leave a bit early. So we proceed at this point to take the comments so we can get the committee members to interrogate the report. Honorable Van Zyl and then Honorable Mteto.
Thank you, Chairperson. Also, thank you to the CRL for their presentations and effort that went into this very long presentation. It was quite detailed. I've just got a couple of questions. First, on the local government impact, has the Commission's work directly improved relationships between local municipalities and cultural or religious groups, particularly around land access, zoning, or initiation sites? Then quickly on the budget and resource constraints, given that your awareness and education programs exceeded targets in Q2 and Q3, how did you manage this overperformance within your tight budget? Because we've heard all morning that your budget is quite tight. Then on achievements and measurable outcomes, you resolved 31 out of 37 conflict-related cases. It was towards your later slides. Which mechanisms or interventions have proven most effective in resolving these conflicts at local level? Then on the language rights, your research into Sepulana, isiHlubi, and isiMpondo found widespread use but little recognition, like you said. Has the Commission engaged with any provincial departments yet on the formal recognition of these languages? And then just on what has been the response by the Department of Basic Education on your recommendations about incorporating mother tongue education and cultural content into schools? And then I wanted to make a statement, and I'd like the CRL maybe to just give comment on that. So the CRL Commission's core mandate is to promote and protect cultural, religious, and linguistic rights, functions that are aligned with nation building, heritage preservation, and cultural expression. All of this falls within the scope of the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture. In contrast, COCTA focuses on local government, intergovernmental relations, and traditional leadership, which is administrative and governance matters. And they don't sort of encompass the broader spectrum of cultural and religious rights. So for the CRL to be truly inclusive, vibrant, and effective, it must be situated possibly within the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture. If I can just get the feeling on that statement by the Commission. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Van Zyl. Honorable Mteto.
Thanks, Chair, and greetings to our commissioners, and thanks for the presentation. May I join right there where Honorable Van Zyl has just left, in terms of saying there is an element of Amakosi needing assistance regarding the laws that are governing Amakosi. Now, you will remember that the laws are of a British and Dutch and Roman cultures. Now, they are clashing with our native cultures. Now, you are sitting with a paradox where you need to respond to a foreign law to deal with a foreign case. So there's going to be a culture clash, and the judgment is not going to be favorable to your culture. So I would like to check with the Commission, can we start a campaign or a program that will have a legal review of the Roman, Dutch, and British law, especially with regards to laws that are governing Amakosi, because they have a strong feeling that this is not their law. But nobody it develops their law so that it can be captured into the context of what we have now termed the South African law. Currently, it stays as it is. As a result, there is a component under the 1885 London Convention and Pretoria Convention, which said a black king will be ruled under a white guardianship, and that is law. And since then till today, Amakosi are still being ruled according to that. As a result, they are not even fitting in the modern day democratic dispensation, especially the constitution, wherein they have a clause that speaks about their powers and their jurisdiction. So can we do something about that? Number two, under your research programs, I got asked a question by a candidate attorney student who had me talking about how these laws are foreign in a foreign jurisdiction. Then he asked for a cultural content which can be taken into the legal framework to amend the law so that it is aligned to our culture. And now that should be sitting with you as a commission, among others. I'm just thinking, can we do something then in relation to the curriculum content to feed it with cultural content so that when they develop laws, those laws can respond to their culture? Because once a culture is foreign, then you are not going to be able to have justice in that. Another point that I would request the commission, which I didn't see in your presentation that you are raising, the issue of our cultural artifacts that were taken by foreign countries from our land. You have Amakos whose head were beheaded and are now sitting in museums. You have our chairs. You have our articles of culture that are now a display in the foreign countries that colonized us. Can we see more of that? Because all the kings that we have, I know for a fact they are still crying for the return of the bones, the return of the heads, the return of all the articles which are making money in the museum of those countries that colonized us. And yet we could be richer in us having our own museum where we display these artifacts. I know that even in KwaZulu, there are still articles that are sitting in Britain and which we need them to be returned, the return of those articles. Can we also get involved in your research conferencing content? The Berlin Conference, this is part of research work. The Berlin Conference in 1884, 1885, it was Amakosi in Europe, and including American president at the time, who sat down and staged the scrambling of Africa. As a result, we are still ruled according to the minutes of that conference. Things have not changed. You still have countries in the continent that have to go via the colonial masters' land before they can access their land. Now, this means we need a research focus now. How do we reverse the resolution taken in that conference so that we can be freed? Because it was a cultural process of another race, bringing their culture over the other. And now we want to create a cultural tolerance, but we don't seem to find that because
The language we are now using, which is English, your Afrikaans, has now become the language of business. Our languages have been relegated to mediums of communication, but amongst ourselves. But we have not elevated our Zulu, our Pedi, our Tswana, our Swati, our Ndebele, and Tsonga into a communication language of business. So it means commercializing isiZulu, commercializing isiTsonga, commercializing, so that if I want to enter into a trade agreement, I can speak my language. The Chinese are doing that and they're doing well. And also, I saw that you are doing something about children. I heard you mentioning something about children being trained according to their mother tongue language. But can we develop a curriculum content that is gonna deliver lessons to everyone now, from elementary education up until tertiary level, so that we can distinguish between the language and the content of the course? Because we are failing in some of the course subjects and course content, not because we are not good at a understanding level, but we are using a foreign language. That means our communication and interface of understanding, it must go via first interpret the language and then come back to engage the content. By the time you have to make deduction and conclusion, it is late for you to make an understanding of what you're trying to say. Also, the issue of you as a focus, your scope of work as a commission. I am deriving your work is as cut out as far back as the 2nd of February, 1835 in the British Parliament, where Lord Macaulay said the following, that if we want to colonize these people, we must change their spirituality and their education so that we sell them Western education. And then once they are now Westernized, it's easy to colonize them. I think that is the basis of your work. How do we reverse that? Because it's now 190 years since that statement was made. And when I look at the changes, we have actually conformed to what they said. And now as this parliament, as a portfolio committee, we need to reverse this, because this is a direct result of the cultural inequities that we are finding, that we can't elevate our cultures because they were undermined as far back at a policy crafting level. And then in the media space, not just in media, but also, let me start by the interface between spirituality and science. At school, when I was doing public management, I asked my lecturer to do my research question in my post-graduation level. I said, can I use my spirituality as a framework to develop a question so that I can and deliver my dissertation?
Let's summarize, Honorable Mteta.
Okay. So at school, I saw that there is no tolerance between spirituality and science. I was asked that your research cannot be conducted under spiritual persuasion because it is not scientifically proven. And at that, I took offense of that, because now it relegates spirituality into sub-science, which means science does not recognize it. Yet the spirituality on its own, it is a science. Then also the issue of environmental affairs, can you work together with them? Because our culture is also informed by our heritage in the mountains, in the vegetation, in hunting, especially the koi and the sun. They need hunting artifacts, they need the skin of the animals to conduct their culture, not them alone, but all of us. But all those environmental affairs parks have now become a state parks where you are no longer allowed to go and hunt in order to inform your culture. These are things that we are struggling with in today's time. But otherwise, media, the last point, is bullying our culture to the point that anything of our culture is either portrayed as black market or as barbaric. And then you see another culture being elevated above another. And this is because of economics. So can we invest more in the economics of our culture, where we sell our cultural artifacts and our cultural performances to attract investment in order to promote our own cultures, because the one who controls the money will not promote your culture, but they will promote their own culture. They will even force you to change instead of doing your own culture. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mtetwa. I've noted you, Honorable Sompa Masiu. Just to say for the Commission, Honorable Mtetwa, some of the issues you are raising are almost tantamount to redefining the mandate of the Commission. Commission derives its mandate from the Constitution based on the equality of the various cultures, languages, and traditions in terms of the law. And therefore, the Commission has a role to protect those cultures, religions, and languages as practiced by the South Africans. And I think that when we have to deal with those issues, we must focus on what the Commission is doing at that level. Your reference to the foundational legal framework of the Roman Dutch law may be an issue for discussion or debate for parliamentarians as a basis for the structuring of the constitutional law of South Africa. That's an issue that should be allowed at that level. I don't believe that there's much that the Commission would have either the mandate or resources to go into that matter. Secondly, the history of the colonial, the decisions around the colonization of the African continent and the Berlin Conference are also relevant, but they are relevant only for purposes of our political discourse. Again, it would not be possible to get this Commission to have resources to go into that element of investigation. I suppose, therefore, that issue would belong somewhere else. A number of the issues you have raised also straddle between the departments of arts and culture and the issues of the language board. And so we can get some comment on those, but I think the issue that relates to the law that governs the role, powers, functions of Amakosi, that actually we have to bring it back with a discussion with the minister who is responsible, because the Commission doesn't have the jurisdiction over the legal framework that governs Amakosi, but more the practices of the cultures, languages, and religions. So I'm just refining this so that the Commission must focus on issues that have got to do with their mandate. If they struggle into these issues that you've raised, we're going to get into an unending debate that for which they've got no mandate. Well, the members here can deal with that if they want to debate those issues as a matter of general debate. That's fine for the members. But the point for me is that I want the Commission to focus on the issue of their mandate, as it were. I will come back with other comments. At this point, let's allow Honorable Sompa Masiu to come in. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Chair, and to members of Parliament of Cocta. Congratulations to the new leadership of CRL that is led by the woman, Iphathe Mfazi. Chair, my questions are on issues of the cases that the CRL have been handling. Here on their presentation, I see that they are having 18 cases were related to religious issues. These 18 cases that they are presenting, is the cases that are the current one or the previous cases that they've been having? Because if I can remember, there are a lot of cases in terms of religious that were opened, and we will see on the news also that there are cases that have been there.
So what I want to check with them, these cases that they have reflected on their reports, are they the current cases or the previous cases from the previous leadership that was there? And then the other issue that I want to know, we appreciate the work that they are doing, but you can see that there's still lack of, I don't know whether it's budget or they don't have enough team, because there are still challenges that are happening across the country. In the schools, in their locations, there are a lot of municipalities, there are a lot of issues. I remember I was in Makwasi in January when we were doing our the school visits. Most the community, when they see that there is a member of parliament that is around, then they will come and say, we have written to the CRL. We are having a case in this ward because we've not been given water and sanitation for more than 5 years, and they have not responded to us. So I'm just making an example about those cases. That's why I'm asking these cases that they have captured here. I see there are few cases, but there are a lot of challenges that need them directly, because our communities, they see them as the hope for them to help them, where they've been reaching out to maybe to municipalities, to the departments, to be assisters as the communities, but they don't get help. And then they'll resort on writing to the CRL to say, assist us, we are having these challenges. So that's what I want to know, whether if they're having those challenges, what is the plan? What can we do maybe to help each other as this committee, so that they must be able to achieve, to assist communities that are having those challenges. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Sompa Masiu. For the members of the board, just note as well that the matters that relate to the recognition of the traditional structures and communities of the Khoi and the San communities, their cultural heritage, and the issues of other related economic rights in relation to access to land, mineral rights, and so on. Those issues are in the hands of the minister as we speak. So we would want you to be conscious of that when you have to deal with these questions. The members have raised a number of questions, which I hope you're going to respond to. Just one area of concern from my side is that I've noticed you have a number of cases that you have had to deal with. But if you follow them, most of them, all that the commission has done is just to say, refer the complainant to this department, refer the complainant to that department. There are circumstances where I believe members might have come to the wrong department. But I'm not sure that is adequate to just refer and not yourself directly deal with the particular department or entity and elicit the responses, engage them as to whether they are within the acceptable norms or not. Because if someone has to just be referred and there is no recourse in the event that they are not getting any response or any satisfaction, then I think we might just be missing an opportunity to resolve a matter as a commission representing the rights of those who have complained. So I'd like you to have a look at that. A number of the cases that you have, so sometimes it makes it difficult for me to see if you got a target and you've raised a number of issues have been raised with yourselves, and all you have done is to refer them to someone else, and they never really made an effort to go into them to deal with the particular institution. We may well be saying that a lot of targets have been met, when in fact all that has been done was just to move the complaint to another department without really trying to go into it and engage that particular department, particularly because if you look at some of the things that we have done in the past, they are actually very important in guiding South African society on how to handle certain matters with the necessary sensitivity. of the cultural, linguistic, and religious rights of individuals. So I'd like you to just have a look at that. But you have had questions and comments, please respond. I have tried to guide on some of the issues which I think you don't need to go into, because you might drag us into a long political debate which is not really within the mandate of. Much, please respond. Chairperson?
Thanks a lot, Honorable Chair. With the issues, I would like to start at the end with the issue that the Honorable Chairperson has raised. I'll cover some of the issues, hand over to the Deputy Chair if he'll answer some, and then go back to the CEO. The issue of referring complainants to other institutions, that has been attended to, Honorable Chair. We've looked at changing the procedure of how we refer cases to other institutions, so that it's not just a referral, but that we stay the course until the matter is resolved. So that is being urgently attended to, Honorable Chair. And then the other issues for how targets were reached and how conflicts at a local level are resolved. That's part of the challenge we are struggling with, because we don't have provincial offices. So we are looking at how we reach communities. One of the things we've been thinking around is to how we use traditional councils as a place where complaints can be lodged, maybe through a box or through someone there representing the SARL Commission, but to make sure that we reach the unreachable. But the targets are reached based on what the plan is, because even for Q4, which we'll report on later, we have looked at what was planned to what was done, but the CEO will elaborate more on that one. The other issues of cultural content and the issue of spirituality and how we deal with issues of spirituality, we're working very closely with the people from the African traditional religion to look at how issues of spirituality and African traditional religion can be resuscitated, deliberately resuscitated and protected. So part of what the strat plan will be looking at will cover those kinds of issues. And also the issue, as the CEO said, will be working very closely with the Khoisan in terms of their diminished heritage and how their heritage will be resuscitated. It's one of our major projects for the current, for the APP for 2024-25. Over to you, CEO.
Thanks, Chair. I think you have covered a number of questions. Perhaps the one that one will talk to, usually when we reach or overachieve in terms of the budget that we have, it's when we had actually, reprioritize some funds, either perhaps the late of appointment of commissioners, then we saved a bit from the, just giving an example, bit from the normal plenary meetings, and then that money could then be reprioritized to add to the demands that communities are looking for in terms of the engagements. So that is just one example. So we always juggle around our budget, but the CFO, if I did not answer it sufficiently, the CFO can still come in and add to the question of how do we overachieve while we're still looking for some money as a commission. There's also a question that I think Ms. Mahoba from the conflict resolution. I think she's saying to me that the chairperson has already answered that question that has to do with conflict resolution. But there was a question that I'll just add something on it. The issue of mediation is very critical for how we resolve conflicts as well as a commission, just to add to the answer that the chair has given to the question that was raised. So mediation also plays a part in that. So the issue of whether we have consulted with the provincial departments of arts and culture in terms of assisting in the promotion of these languages that we've indicated, that is a work that we are doing. We haven't consulted all of them, but they are very much aware of these issues. We remember, for instance, in Limpopo, we have a standing issue with the provincial committee there of the legislature to give them a bit of a report of the work that we have done around the languages in the province, because they are also paying attention through their provincial Department of Arts and Culture to see as to what is it that they can do to also begin to elevate the marginalized languages. So it's a continuous process that we are engaging with the relevant departments in different provinces, just to try and answer that question. Then we do take the comment from the chair that we should be mindful that other projects are with the minister, including the COISAN. Yes, I think the chair of the commission noted that as well in a response, that we work with them very closely so that we do not move to different directions. I think the other question was, okay, so I'm requested perhaps to just talk to the last one, then the deputy chair will conclude on others. The one that talks to 18 religious cases as to whether it is the issue of finance or the issue of human resource, I think is the question that the chairperson answered. They are not visible in provinces and local communities, but the strategic intervention that commission is doing now is what the chair talked about, the transitional councils. And we are hoping it will still require human resources in those traditional councils, because so it will come back to the finances as well. There was a question, Chair, about these cases of 18. Was it for the past or commissioners? Or I want to believe that these 18 are just the combination of Q2 and Q3 as required in terms of this reporting. It's just for the Q2, Q3 of the previous financial year. So it's just to clarify that. But we do take the counsel that says there are lots of complaints in schools, in municipalities. We'll try and spread ourselves within our own means. And where we need to be supported, we need to be supported by the members. I'll go back to the deputy chair. I think I'll stop there, Chairperson.
Angikulochise sihlalo nani amalungu ahloniphekileko wekomiti le. I just want to respond to the issue around initiation. that Honorable Van Zyl raised. I think as the CRL, this issue is a critical focus, and in that respect, we are setting up special projects that will look at intensifying the work that we need to do with municipalities. Specifically, the relationships, I think we continue to work with the provincial PICCs, particularly in urban areas, Gauteng, as well as the Western Cape, to ensure that the issue around land for initiation always find resonance, because what you would find is that due to the influx of people coming into the Gauteng province, you will find that that land then gets used for other purposes. We are also part of the National Initiation Oversight Committee, and within that structure, we ensure that the provinces keep these issues on the radar to ensure that our communities are able to practice their culture. Around these issues, we have also stated that we need to look at what the minister has pronounced in the next reporting period to ensure that we look at what are the critical issues that as the Commission we need to bring to the attention of the Minister as well as New York. Thank you.
Honorable members, those are the responses. Any other
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I hope we've covered most of the ground with the help of the CEO. Unless there are gaps in our responses, we'll hand over to the Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Honorable members, those are the responses. Are we done? Are we able to release the committee? Going one. Okay. Thank you very much. Let us then take this opportunity to thank the CRL Commission for the very detailed presentation. Thanks for responding to the questions. And as we have indicated, there are various areas which we as committee are looking at. What for me is most pleasing is that you have relooked at the referral PET system so that you are able to stay on course and ensure that the matters are resolved, even though there may be other departments involved, because I think your weight is important at that level. The issue of the rights for linguistic and religious cultural communities, it's a very important issue in the management of the stability of our country in terms of respecting the diversity of our cultures, religions, and languages in a manner that allows each and every one of us to feel that their rights are protected within the Constitution. So the role of the Commission becomes very crucial at that level. We note the work that's being done in relation to the recognition or development of other languages, isiHlubi, isiMpondo, isiPulana. There may be others that might be also wishing to raise their concerns. We have had discussions with the communities, the Khoi and the San communities, who also raised some of these issues in relation to different languages and dialects affecting these particular communities, and we're aware that some work had been done to quite a great extent on the recognition of the Nama community, Nama language. So we'll keep those as work in progress. I know that at some point there was an issue raised around Kilobedu as another language that is unique, different, but also requiring some attention. So we leave all of that in your capable hands. We also note the work that had been done in relation to supporting the safe practice of the customer initiation. We welcome your role in the oversight committees and the work you do in promoting this particular custom, ensure that it remains safe. Yesterday, we had a discussion with the department, and we were actually saying we do not accept the targets that they had set, because for us, if you want to set a target around initiation schools, then 0 of them should be illegal. You want to set a target around mutilations and penal amputations, our target should be 0. There shouldn't be any amount that we could think can be seen as acceptable. And similarly, on the issue of deaths, 0 deaths will be tolerated, nothing else. So we hope that you will continue to play a role in that regard. And then on the other issues that have been done, quite a number of concerns have been raised around the practicing of the various religions in relation to some of the harmful and unsavory practices that we had seen being performed under the auspices of religion. And we are pleased that you actually did focus on those, and we hope you continue to do so. Linked also to the whole question of abuse, psychological, physical, sexual abuses of congregants as they practice their religions. Again, we believe these are very, very sensitive matters that touch on the various communities and recognition, whilst we respect the various religious beliefs, but that also human rights have to be the underlying foundation on which those are practiced. So with that, we want to say thank you very much for this presentation. And also, once again, congratulations, and we wish you everything of the best. And at this point, we will excuse the members of the CRL board and the management. Thank you very much. Have a lovely day. We'll wait for a minute whilst you disengage. Then the members will continue to do one more item of the agenda. Thank you very much. In the meantime, could Shirin be projecting the agenda? Honorable members, whilst they are trying to find the agenda to project, let me then say we are supposed to discuss the program of the committee. The program of the committee will not be discussed at this point whilst we await the changes that come from the House committee, so that we can then align our program in relation to that. We may share information as we go along that relate to some aspects of the program, but at this point, we're not ready to discuss any changes. I just want to say thank you for taking your time to go through these discussions, because we have now concluded on the preliminary work that needs to be done on the annual performance plans, and also looking at the issues of budget. We will then wait for the amendments and request the minister to come and brief us on how much of on what work they were planning to do for the year, and then only we will be able to comment about it. So at this point, therefore, I want to, there will not be much discussion in relation to the program of the committee. Members, if you'd like to comment on it before we can proceed, Honorable Mtetwa, you will be first, and if there's any other, so that we can try and round this matter up. Thank you very much. Honorable Tingswai.
Yes, thanks, Chair. It's just a matter that I request we noted for the record the issue of the CWP employees that have been served with letters that by end of May they will be terminated their service and work, and that is at a national level, which we didn't get that when we were meeting the department, but we got it as something that they informed us. So our suggestion was that if we can find a way that we can maybe call now, not the DG, because I think they're implicated, but I think we have the chief directors and the implementing agents so that they can give context to the matter, because it is now going to be a mess once these people get fired by end of May. Just for matter to note, that the committee will decide when does it hear this matter, but it's a matter that is hot on the ground of CWP program. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Sompa.
Thanks, Chair. Nikki, I just wanted to put the issue also that I saw on social media about the Limpopo. I don't know whether you saw it, about the Limpopo municipality. I'm looking for it here. It's about a municipality in Limpopo is urging that the state cannot prosecute it for spilling raw sewage because of the municipality is itself part of the same state, It's there on social media. So I don't know whether, Chair, maybe is there anything maybe we can get from the Limpopo municipality about this issue? Thanks.
Okay. All right, thanks. That was circulated in the group about the Limpopo municipality that was arguing that they cannot be they cannot be sued for stuff that they hadn't performed simply because they are part of the state. Look, let's have a look at that article and see whether we want to get involved, because it seems it was a submission they made to the court. Now, short of intervening in a court process, we might just be agitated by their assertion. But if it's a matter in court, it might have limitations about what we can do. But we'll have a look at it. It was circulated here. I recall that it was in the group chat, so I'll have a look at that. Then we'll see whether, in fact, at any point we want to deal with this issue. So that's fine. Let's note it. Let's proceed then. Any other members? Honorable Mkalipi, you back?
Thanks, Chair. Yes, I'm back. Thanks, Chair. On the program, the study tour does not reflect. What is the status of it? Secondly, on the program. Hi, Chair.
I'm laughing at you because I reported on Monday.
I need to tell those updates after we met with the House Chair. Yes. Chair, the second issue is that thing of IEC, and I can see on the program is part and parcel of the proposed program, but my worry is that is very far, 17th of June. If we can find a way to bring IEC before, because they are continuing. Yesterday, COO of IEC had a press briefing And then I think that the committee must be empowered in terms of what is going to take place in terms of the e-voting. So if you are going to schedule them very far, I think you are going to be also not disadvantaged not to have the first-hand information as committee. Thanks, Chair.
All right. We'll have to bring that matter closer, the issue of the IEC, and see what is the latest report on that. The point is noted. Let's bring it closer. The issue of the CWP, we will also factor it in, bring it closer as much as we can. The only reason why we're not proceeding with the structure program as it's structured is that there will be a new reorganized schedule of parliament that will affect all of the things that we want to do. Now, in relation to the study tour, overseas study tour, the comments I made on Tuesday was that the chairperson had said to us there will be a meeting on Wednesday to look at the budget of Parliament and therefore allocate various committee budgets, and then they would write to us to inform us of where we are, what the amounts were. So the meeting did take place on Wednesday. There was a tabling of the parliamentary budget with all the challenges that it faces, shortfalls and everything. However, that the letter that was supposed to be written to us by the House chairperson has not reached us. I do suspect, though, that the changing of the appropriations bill, that amendment is likely to make the chairperson delay in giving us further information. So we'll wait to see if he writes to us and give us any specifics, but I suspect that the allocations on which the discussion was based on Wednesday would be affected by the amendments that are coming with the amended appropriations bill. Nevertheless, at this point, we'll just keep waiting to get that letter. So the latest for us, it's the House chairperson will write to us, and then we will discuss the matter at that point. I hope that does clarify the issues. Honorable Mtetwa, you still have your hand up. Your matter on CWP has been noted.
Yes, I forgot another one. The other matter of Johannesburg, City of Johannesburg, that Mr. Mesili, who was actually reporting on the matter of 200 million expenditure on a wrong policy of appointed people. That matter is still outstanding, and apparently UDG gave an undertaking that he will address it because he's part of the presidential coordinating committee to deal with issues at City of Johannesburg. But the matter is not. So now they are threatening to advance it to the Speaker of Parliament if at least there is no attention given to the matter. So I'm just reporting it so that it is noted that there is no change on his situation, Mr. Misuli, the one who is a manager in the City of Johannesburg, on that matter.
Please send that information to the secretary so that we don't deal with it on a word of mouth basis. Let's have something which is concrete so we know how to deal with it. If we can get the copy, we will then formally approach the City of Johannesburg to give us concrete responses to that. So please send it to the secretary, and then we'll deal with it. The other letter you raised about the CWP, any information, you could also do the same. Send it through so that we can get the query properly processed. Thank you very much. Honorable members, you will have the program once it's been revised. We note the comments. We'll try and prioritize as much of what you have raised and move on possibly. We'll have a bit. We have covered most of what needs to be done in the department. There will also be other issues in relation to legislations that we need to look at. So we will then give you a considered proposal of the program. Can we then bring this meeting to a closure at this point? Honorable members, are we missing anything? No? Okay. Thank you very much then. Let's then adjourn this meeting. We will inform you in due course as soon as we have new information what we do next week, but we certainly have to keep the space available for the meeting. Then we'll talk about refining the agenda and sending it to you as we move on. Thank you very much. Meeting is adjourned. Thanks to all the members of the Demarcation Board, the members of the ministry, the members of the CRL Commission and the Secretariat. Thanks to everyone, honorable members. Have a lovely weekend. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Chair.
Welcome. You're welcome.